Bai is my brother in name only, but in reality he is my child husband. After my father passed away, my mother was afraid that he would abandon us. She drugged him and locked him in my room. As a result, he missed his true love, Bai Yueguang, forever. Later, he locked my mother in the basement like a dog. He forced me to beg for death but could not, and I was abused by him every night. We will never be separated in this life. Are you satisfied, sister? I opened my eyes again in a pool of blood, back to the moment when he pressed on me. His hot body pressed against me, and dense kisses fell on my neck. The iron chain on my ankle made a ding-dong sound as my body impacted. Bai grabbed my neck and smiled sinisterly. You are going to commit suicide by hunger strike, right? If you don't eat for 1 day, I will let people torture your mother for 1 more day. I want to see, is it you who is strong, or your mother, brother? I moved my eyes woodenly and suddenly spoke. Bai's movements suddenly stopped, and his voice became colder. What did you call me? No matter before or now, for more than 20 years, I have never called Bai brother, because I knew from a young age that I would marry him when I grew up. How could I call him brother? But today, I want to call him brother. I raised the corners of my lips lightly. My eyes became more and more empty. 7 years, isn't it enough? It started from the day Bai married me and completely took over the company left by my father. This revenge, called hatred, lasted for 7 years. At the beginning, I wanted a divorce, asked for compensation, and tried various suicide attempts. But in the end, I was forced to give up everything. Because Bai held my mother's life in his hands. If I behaved better, my mother's dog-like life in the basement would be better. So, in fact, I didn't mean to go on a hunger strike. I really couldn't eat. It turns out that advanced gastric cancer is so painful. Enough. Bai pulled the corner of his lips coldly, pinched my chin, and poured porridge into my mouth. You owe me, and it's not enough in this life. Aren't you and your daughter afraid that I will abandon you? I promise you that we will never be separated in this life. Are you satisfied, sister? I was forced to drink half a bowl of porridge, but I couldn't help vomiting it out. Bai's face became more and more ugly, and he turned me over suddenly and pulled my long hair tightly. You don't want to eat, okay, then continue. I was forced to kneel on the bed and let him conquer me in revenge. I suffered the double pain of physical and psychological tearing, until the bloody smell in my stomach could no longer be suppressed. Blood overflowed from my mouth and splashed on the pure white sheets. Bai's panicked voice sounded in my ears, and he stretched out his hand to wipe the blood from my lips, but the result was that the more he wiped, the more blood came out. What's wrong with you? My body collapsed, and I looked up at the dazzling crystal chandelier on the ceiling, and smiled with relief. Bai, you and I are cleared in this life. Let my mother go. My head was dizzy, but my body felt like it was pressed by something very heavy. I frowned and slowly opened my eyes. What I saw was the familiar and long-lost ceiling, and I couldn't help but be stunned. Am I not dead yet? Where did Bai take me? It doesn't look like a hospital, nor does it look like the bedroom where he imprisoned me with chains for 7 years. Instead, it looks more like the home we once lived in. Swish. My pajamas were torn, and a chill came from my chest. A hand with distinct knuckles covered my chest, and I trembled all over, with goosebumps all over my body. I hurriedly moved my eyes down, but bumped into a pair of red eyes. Bai, who was obviously much younger, had blurred eyes and heavy breathing. One hot kiss after another fell on my heart. My mind seemed to be split by a thunder, shaking me violently. How could this be so much like the night when Bai was drugged by my mother? I looked around the room, looking at the familiar furnishings, and I was almost sure that this was that night. It was just that last time. I took the medicine given by my mother because of stomach pain, and I didn't wake up the whole time, so I couldn't prevent the mistake from happening, and this time, God has mercy on me. I woke up. Brother, calm down, look carefully. I am your sister. Bai's body suddenly paused. He raised his red and blurred eyes, looked at me confusedly for a few seconds, and frowned tightly. But I obviously underestimated my mother's determination to find a way to succeed if you can't succeed. She poured nearly half a bottle of strong liquor into Xiaoyubai's mouth. Coupled with the condiments in the wine, Xiaoyubai's sobriety didn't even last 3 seconds, and it collapsed. His palm moved down along my waistline step by step, eagerly and unsystematically pulling the edge of my underwear. Bang! I grabbed the glass bottle filled with wishing stars on the bedside and hit Xiaoyubai's head hard. The glass shattered, and the paper stars folded by hand scattered all over the bed. Xiaoyubai's body suddenly pressed on me. Then, he lost consciousness limply. I tilted my head back and gasped for air, closing my eyes as if I had survived a disaster. Fortunately, there was a buzzing sound under the bed. I pushed Xiaoyubai away and tried to get up to find the source of the vibration. Unexpectedly, when I was halfway up, a dizziness swept over my head. The stuff my mother mixed in my stomach medicine finally worked. I just felt my stomach churning, and my eyes were gradually covered with black fog. Before I lost consciousness, I remembered what was vibrating: Xiaoyubai's mobile phone. The caller should be the girl he had a crush on. When Xiqing, "Oh, Xiqing is here. Are you looking for Yubai? Come on, come in." The sound of conversation came from outside the house. As if my mother was welcoming guests, I sat up from the bed, holding my stuffy and aching head. It was already bright outside. The chaotic footsteps were coming towards my room. Yubai is in Ayu's room. Ah, why is he going to Xiaoyu's room so early? My consciousness was cleared instantly, and my heart skipped a beat. It's bad. When Xiqing was our former neighbor, in a military compound, there lived 3 families, Xie, Wen, and Ji. Xiaoyubai and Wen Xiqing were both other people's children. They had been fighting for grades since they were young. From high school to college, they looked like enemies who could not tolerate each other. But in fact, there was only a thin layer of window paper between them. Everyone knew that my father adopted Xiaoyubai in order to raise a son-in-law for himself in advance. So, Xiaoyubai and Wen Xiqing agreed to confess to my mother on the day of graduation from college. He would repay my family's kindness in raising him. But he would never repay it by giving himself to her. As a result, Xiaoyubai was drunk by my mother and drugged, and never answered the phone. When Xiqing was worried that something might happen to him, so he went to the door in person the next morning. Then, my mother deliberately led me to witness the surprise on the bed. When Xiqing was disheartened and went home to accept the family marriage and married someone else by mistake, Xiaoyubai, with endless regret and hatred, entangled with me for 7 years. A muffled groan suddenly came from my leg. Xiaoyubai, who was unconscious, moved. Then he frowned and sat up, reaching out to touch the back of his head. Hiss! The confused pupils gradually focused and finally fixed on my face. Xiaoyubai's body suddenly stiffened, and there was a clear tremor in his eyes. Xiaoyu, he rushed over, his hands trembling violently, and touched my face and my lips randomly. It seemed like he was rubbing something. His tone was angry. But there was a faint tremor. Who allowed you to vomit blood? Why didn't you tell me you were sick? You can't even die without my permission. Do you hear me? If you dare to die, I will torture your mother and make her live a life worse than death. Every word sounded like thunder in my ears. My body suddenly froze, and my heart trembled uncontrollably. Xiaoyubai, you are also reborn, right? Before I finished speaking, the door was twisted open. The person outside the door was about to come in. I was so anxious that I didn't care about so much. I kicked Xiaoyubai off the bed, then I quickly pulled the quilt over and covered my naked body completely. The paper stars scattered all over the bed were shaken off, and many of them fell under the bed. Yubai, are you okay? Wen Xiqing was shocked when he saw Xiaoyubai falling to the ground and hurried over to help him. Xiaoyubai stared at her stupidly. After a long while, he shouted in disbelief. Xiqing, yeah. Wen Xiqing nodded, a blush on her face. I called you last night, but you didn't answer. I was afraid that something happened to you, so I came to see you. Xiaoyubai's pupils suddenly shrank, then he had the same reaction as me, looking around the room in disbelief. Obviously, he was digesting the fact of rebirth, but my mother, who was not reborn, reacted more strongly than him. Seeing that we didn't sleep together, her voice rose several degrees. What's going on? Why didn't you, Mom? I interrupted her hurriedly. I accidentally knocked over the stomach medicine my brother just gave me. Make me another cup. By the way, call Auntie in and sweep up the broken pieces. Oh, what a pity. My star jar was also broken. As I said that, I looked up at Wen Xiqing, who was obviously relieved, and smiled. Sister Xiqing, are you here to see my brother? Yeah. Wen Xiqing nodded and looked at Xie Yubai shyly. Xie Yubai had completely come back to his senses at this time. He took a deep breath slowly, looked at her face, and said in a low voice, Xiqing, long time no see. Xie Yubai went out to chat with Wen Xiqing. Before leaving, he insisted on sweeping up the glass fragments in my room, including the handmade stars scattered all over the floor. Carefully, not a single one fell. When she went out with the garbage bag, she looked back at me and my mother deeply, her eyes dark and gloomy, but in the end, she said nothing and slowly closed the door. I didn't care. I just collapsed on the bed and let out a long sigh as if I had survived a disaster. I was scared to death. Ayu, my mother sat beside my bed with a pale face, looking desperate. Don't you like Yubai? Why don't you keep him? My eyes couldn't help but tremble slightly. A familiar dull pain emerged in my heart, but more of it was relief. But he doesn't like me. This kind of thing can't be forced. We can't be too greedy and force a sale, right? My mother covered her face with tears and sobbed desperately. What if Yubai really married Wen Xiqing and didn't want us mother and daughter anymore? What about your father's company? I knew it in my heart. My mother was actually afraid that Xie Yubai, who she had carefully cultivated, would become someone else's son-in-law. I am even more afraid that I will not be able to protect the company that my father has worked so hard to build. After all, I have no talent for business, and I have been learning piano since elementary school. Xie Yubai is the successor cultivated by my father, but if he does not marry me, he will be an outsider after all. What if he has ulterior motives after taking over the company and sets a trap to cheat us? After all, it is better to have a son-in-law. But Mom, I sat up wrapped in the quilt and hugged my mother. You are so calculating, my brother. Aren't you afraid that he will hate you? He married me, took over our family's business, and trapped us at home for revenge. What should we do? At that time, let alone backing, we don't even have the capital to resist. So, the only one you can trust is me. My mother stopped sobbing. She stared at me for a long time, and finally said, Ayu, Mom will definitely find you a good in-law. Find a good son-in-law who can take over your father's company. Me, that's not what I mean, Mom. So, is there a possibility? I don't need to force a son-in-law. I also have a way to solve this problem. Until 10:30 in the evening, Xie Yubai didn't come back. But when Xiqing updated his circle of friends at more than 8 o'clock, with a picture of Xie Yubai's profile, the text is, "You are worthy of my courage." I silently clicked a thumbs up and left a sincere comment. Wish you brother and sister-in-law well. Then not long after, the phone rang. The voice in the receiver was cold and magnetic, but concise. Come out, I'm at your door. I pursed my lips, feeling a little inexplicable, and said softly. I picked up the coat from the bed and put it on. Just as I was about to go out, my mother suddenly became energetic. Ayu, is it Ji Wang? Yeah, I nodded, and my hand holding the door handle paused for a few seconds. Ji Wang, the young master of the Ji family of the Xie, Wen, and Ji families, my childhood sweetheart. In my previous life, I married Wen Xiqing through an arranged marriage, but was targeted by Xie Yubai. And both sides suffered losses. My mother didn't notice my abnormality at all, but became excited. I think Ji Wang is not bad, I know him well, and his family background is suitable. Our two families are a good match. Click. The door suddenly opened from the outside and bumped into me lightly. Xie Yubai opened the door and came in immediately. With the chill of early autumn, he was holding 2 packaged fried noodles in his hand. It was the one my mother and I loved to eat. He looked at my coat and said in a cold voice, "It's so late. Where are you going?" I paused and tightened my fingers unconsciously. In my previous life, when Xiqing and Ji Wang faded out of my world early, I don't know if they were happy after marriage. I only know that Xie Yubai has never liked Ji Wang since then. Every time I met him, Xie Yubai was in a bad mood. He would torment me without saying a word when he got home. Just go out for a walk. I pursed my lips and didn't say who I wanted to meet. I just walked around Xiaobai silently and opened the door to go out. Mom, Xiaobai changed his shoes and went into the house, putting the fried noodles on the table, looking normal. I brought you a midnight snack. My mother's eyes trembled, and her eyes were a little wet. You buy, last night. Mom was afraid. Mom, Xiaobai smiled and interrupted her. I understand. Please believe me. I will always remember your kindness in adopting me. No matter who I marry in the end, I will not abandon you and Ayu. Let the past go. My mother choked and nodded repeatedly, just as I was about to speak. I heard Xiaobai unpacking disposable chopsticks and asking casually, Ayu is going out alone so late. I don't know if it's safe. Don't worry, my mother smiled. She went to see Ji Wang. With Ji Wang here, nothing will happen. You buy. Do you think Ayu and Ji Wang have a high chance of success? I think they are a good match. Crack. The disposable chopsticks in Xiaobai's hand broke into two pieces. Under the dim streetlights, a silver lotus quietly stopped by the roadside, low-key and steady. Just like the person driving the car, the window of the driver's cabin was half lowered, revealing half of a cold and handsome profile. Seeing me come out, he tilted his head to the co-pilot lightly. Get in the car. I pursed my lips and lowered my eyes, opened the door and got in the car. My tense body inexplicably relaxed, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Going to see the sunrise. Ji Wang's deep and magnetic voice sounded in the car. I was stunned and shook my head. No. Ji Wang glanced at me. Find a place to drink. Cry. I shook my head and sighed. No, really, it's not that bad. I don't deny that I still feel bad, but I'm also happy. Ji Wang looked at me in surprise, obviously not believing. You'd better. I also know he doesn't believe it. After all, he knows how much I like Xiaobai. He knows how much I was waiting to marry him before. Ji Wang. Although this may be a bit sudden, but I really don't like him anymore. I'm very happy that he's with Wen Xiqing. Ji Wang's fingers gripping the steering wheel suddenly tightened. He tilted his head and looked at me for a long time with a dark and deep look in his eyes. Suddenly he asked without any context, have you ever opened the star jar I gave you the day before yesterday? I paused, looking a little embarrassed. I did, but it shouldn't be considered opened. Ji Wang's face was full of doubts. He unbuckled his seat belt and leaned closer to me. We were so close that if you looked out the window, it looked like we were kissing. Ji Wang stared into my eyes, his voice a little nervous. What do you mean it's not considered opened? You didn't give it to anyone, did you? I said guiltily. I didn't give it to anyone. That is, the door beside me was suddenly opened. Before I could react, my arm was suddenly grabbed and I was dragged out of the car. The car door was slammed shut. Xiaobai, who was outside the car, was wearing a black woolen coat and looked serious and indifferent. The hand that was pulling my arm used great strength. It seemed as if it wanted to crush my bones. The deep anger in his eyes seemed to tear me apart. Xiaoyu, you let him kiss you. You actually agreed to let him kiss you. You agreed to him. I was stunned. He didn't kiss me. Why, brother Yubai, do you think I am your brother-in-law? In the car, Ji Wang sat up straight, with a provocative look on his face. He looked at Xiaobai faintly through the half-lowered car window. His voice was still calm and indifferent, but every word was full of thorns. Brother Yubai is in a relationship. Why does he care whether his sister is in a relationship or not? You care so much about Xiaoyu. Aren't you afraid that your sister-in-law will be jealous? Xiaobai frowned and said unkindly, I care about my sister. It has nothing to do with you. Heh. Ji Wang smiled and curled his lips. Is it really your sister? Xiaobai's fist clenched suddenly. I was startled and quickly reached out to grab his arm. Brother, let's go home. Ji Wang is ignorant and fearless, but I know it in my heart. Xiaobai's attitude clearly shows that he carries the resentment of Ji Wang taking his wife away in his previous life. If we continue to talk like this, it is absolutely possible that we will fight. Xiaoyu. Ji Wang looked deeply at the hand I was holding Xiaobai with, his eyes cold. Finally, he rarely cursed. I believe your lies. I don't like Xiaobai anymore. Liar. The throttle buzzed, and the car drove away like an arrow. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner, and couldn't help but sigh. Ji Wang, you have no idea how hard Xiaobai is on you. Sister, I saved your life. Are you so reluctant? Xie Yubai's cold voice sounded from my side. I glanced at him inexplicably. He didn't steal your sweetheart in this life, so why are you so tense? Xie Yubai pursed his lips and stared at me quietly, but he didn't say anything. I couldn't help but sigh. To be honest, from waking up to now, Xie Yubai and I have only had the opportunity to be alone now. I have the opportunity to talk about rebirth. It was our fault that we ruined your marriage in the last life. We deserve it. But my mother and I have redeemed the sins that should be redeemed. In this life, you should talk to your white moonlight. We owe each other nothing and start over. How about that? I said it sincerely. But Xie Yubai's eyes darkened inexplicably. The veins on the back of his clenched fists were bulging, as if he was holding back some emotions. I frowned. What? Didn't you get rid of your anger in the last 7 years? Do you still plan to take revenge on me and my mother in this life? Brother, I pursed my lips, facing the moonlight, and looked into his eyes solemnly and seriously. I wish you and your sister-in-law can live happily in this life. Let the past go. Xie Yubai's eyes trembled deeply. After a long silence, his tightly clenched palms loosened as if they had lost their strength. After that day, when Xiqing came to my house more frequently, although I tried to avoid him, I still bumped into him a few times. Especially on this day, I was applying lipstick in front of the dressing mirror at the door, when Xiqing, who was dressed up in a white dress, just walked in. Her eyes looked at me strangely. Ayu, are you going to the movies with us? No, I yawned lazily, feeling puzzled. You two are on a date. Why should I go? I have an appointment with the doctor today, to see my stomach. In my last life, I ended up with stomach cancer. And I'm afraid that the stomach pain from this time on has already begun to sow the seeds of disaster. I have to cherish my life in this new life. When Xiqing seemed to be relieved, her face was much more relaxed. Oh. So that's it. On the contrary, Xie Yubai, who was putting on his coat, paused when he heard what I said. He looked up at me with a deep look in his eyes. We'll take you there. No, not necessary. I opened my mouth and just uttered a syllable, when Xiqing said with difficulty, but Yubai, the hospital and the cinema are in 2 directions. We will be too late. How about we go to the cinema another day? Ayu's health is the most important. Don't worry about her. My mother just came out of the kitchen after washing fruits. She has a date today. Ji Wang will come to pick her up later. Xie Yubai's eyebrows twisted slightly, when Xiqing also looked at me in surprise, his eyes bright. Ayu, are you dating Ji Wang? I nodded a little guilty. Yes, bullshit. I didn't make an appointment with Ji Wang. The so-called date is just an excuse to fool my mother. But what I didn't expect was, when I went out, Ji Wang's car was actually parked at the door. Maybe because he didn't go to work today, he didn't wear that formal suit and shirt. Instead, he changed into a grey sweater, with his hair scattered on his forehead, looking particularly handsome. Why are you here? I sat in the passenger seat, my face full of shock. Ji Wang raised his eyebrows, threw me a bag of dumplings, and said in a faint tone, my mother woke me up this morning and told me not to be late for my date with you. Okay, so my mother has already talked to Ji's mother in advance. Your mother wants to bring us together, Ji Wang said a statement calmly. I covered my face with my hands and didn't respond. Ji Wang was a lawyer, and he could definitely see the situation of my family at a glance. My father holds 52% of the company's shares. After he passed away, my mother got 27%, I got 15%, and Xie Yubai got 10%. But I am an idiot in finance, and my mother is a pedantic giant baby, so I can't take over the company at all. Xie Yubai can, but he only has 10% of the shares. And no one will accept him as a leader, unless I or my mother gives him the shares. He can legitimately become the first shareholder. Now that he is with Wen Xiqing, he is destined to be an outsider. Your mother can't take the risk of giving her shares to him and help him get to the top, so the only way out is to find you another reliable son-in-law. Ji Wang's analysis is absolutely right. I was speechless and sighed. Don't worry, I have my own way. We don't have to. Okay. The sudden 2 words made me stunned. After blinking twice, I didn't even react. What? Until I came back from the hospital after the examination, I didn't communicate with Ji Wang even a word. He didn't speak, either, and let the silence spread in the car, until the car stopped at my door. I opened the door and got out. He suddenly called me, opened the door and got out of the car, standing in front of me. "Xiaoyu." Ji Wang stared at my face, his deep pupils reflected my reflection. "I'm serious." I nodded hastily, with an evasive heart. "No, no." Ji Wang seemed to see through my intentions, and said in a gloomy tone, "Give me an answer before 8 o'clock tomorrow night. 1 minute later, I will sue you." "Tsk." I raised my leg and kicked him. "Are you looking for death?" Ji Wang laughed heartily, stretched out his hand and rubbed my head. "So, I advise you not to give up a lawyer easily. Life will be very difficult." I simply put my wrists together and pushed them in front of him. He said unhappily, "Come on, call the police, arrest me, come on." My wrist was grabbed and pulled violently, and my face hit the solid and warm chest. Ji Wang held me in his arms and hugged me tightly. "I got it." Me, silent as a chicken. What happened?" Bang. Something fell to the ground at the corner of the intersection. I tilted my head and saw Xiaoyu Bai and Wen Xiqing standing hand in hand at the intersection. A paper bag was lying at Wen Xiqing's feet. The beer cans inside were still rolling on the ground, but my sight stopped at the conspicuous blue and white umbrella box that fell halfway out of the paper bag. Sorry." Wen Xiqing smiled at us with a look of joy, his eyes shining. She covered her mouth shyly. "It's really shocking. I even forgot that I was holding the bag in my hand. You too, are moving too fast." Xiaoyu Bai frowned. His eyes swept over Ji Wang's arms holding me, in a cold tone. "You're still hugging me at the doorstep, haven't you had enough?" When Xiqing's expression froze slightly, Ji Wang raised his eyebrows. "Yeah, not enough. Ghost." I hurriedly withdrew from Ji Wang's arms and touched my hot face. Xiaoyu Bai's eyes became darker and darker, and he came over and pulled me away from Ji Wang. "What are the results of the examination?" Nothing." I shook my head. "Pay attention to your diet in the future, and there will be no problem with regular examinations." Xiaoyu Bai's expression eased slightly and he nodded. When Xiqing smiled and walked forward, holding his arm. "You Bai, let's go in first. Don't disturb Ayu's date with Ji Wang." Xiaoyu Bai didn't move, his eyes swept over Ji Wang and me. "It's the middle of the night, haven't you finished talking yet?" Ji Wang frowned, but with a smile on his face. "Brother Yu Bai is too nosy, isn't he? You've already taken Sister Xiqing home, and you're still nosy about us." My heart trembled. Fearing that Ji Wang would say something too much, I quickly pulled him. "I'm going home. Bye. Be careful on the road." After saying that, without waiting for their reaction, he turned around and rushed into the door. I trotted back to the room. I didn't dare to turn on the light, secretly pulling the curtains to look downstairs. Ji Wang's car had already left and was turning the corner. I breathed a sigh of relief, and just as I was about to lower the curtains, my eyes glanced inadvertently. But I found that Wen Xiqing and Xiaoyu Bai seemed to be arguing. 2 seconds later, I closed the curtains. I could probably guess that it had something to do with me. After all, Xiaoyu Bai was my child husband, and she knew it since she was a child. Even if we have established a relationship now, she will definitely still be concerned about my existence. I can understand. I took out my phone from my bag, thought about it, and sent a message to Ji Wang. "Lawyer Ji. Don't forget what I entrusted you with today. It's very important. Please do it as soon as possible." I was really anxious. I was anxious to draw a clear line with Xiaoyu Bai, although the past has been decided to be in the past, but after being reborn once, maybe Xiaoyu Bai can do it as if nothing happened. I can't forget the entanglement of those 7 years, and I can't pretend that it doesn't exist, and, even if there is no rebirth, according to the current situation, it is not suitable for us to stay under the same roof and be a family. I was suddenly awakened by the ringing of the phone. The moonlight was light and I opened my eyes to check the time on the screen, 2:37 in the morning. The caller was actually Xiaoyu Bai. "What are you doing in the middle of the night?" I huddled in the quilt and regained consciousness. That's not right. Shouldn't Xiaoyu Bai be making love with Wen Xiqing in bed at this time? Why did he call me? Just as I thought about it, when Siqing's cry came from the receiver, "You buy, you buy. I can't do it anymore," along with her voice, there was Xie Yubai's low and hoarse breathing. My mind was startled. I suddenly opened my eyes and was completely awake this time. With an indescribable expression, he hung up the phone. What a psycho. What I didn't hear was, at the moment of hanging up the phone, the low and hoarse voice "Ayu" came from the receiver. When Ji Wang came to my house with the documents, I had been practicing in the piano room for 4 hours. In my previous life, Xie Yubai imprisoned my freedom, but at least he left me the piano. Those long, painful, and lonely times were all spent with the piano. Otherwise, I might have gone crazy. "Why do I feel that you have improved a lot overnight?" After the song ended, Ji Wang pushed the door in. There was a deep surprise in his eyes. "This competition is probably a sure thing." I smiled silently. In my previous life, I missed this piano competition because I had to prepare for my marriage. In this life, I will not miss it again. My eyes fell on the documents in Ji Wang's hand, and I raised my eyebrows. Ji Wang pursed his lips and handed me the document with an inexplicable expression. "It's all done according to your request." I opened the document, glanced through it roughly, and looked up at him with a grateful smile. "Thank you for your great help, Attorney Ji. Have you thought it through?" Ji Wang stared at me and asked. I nodded. "Well, this is the best solution to deal with our relationship." Ji Wang paused. "In fact, we don't have to be so anxious. After all, Xie Yubai and Wen Siqing have just been together." Ji Wang didn't say the second half of the sentence. But I know, what he meant was that whether the two of them would eventually succeed or not was another matter. It doesn't matter. Even if it's not Wen Siqing, we have to avoid suspicion if it's someone else. And, the phone call from last night came to my mind. I covered my face. "Wen Siqing is in a hurry, TSK. Ji Wang showed a hint of disgust between his eyebrows. "You should stop playing with her." I slightly widened my eyes in surprise. Does Ji Wang hate Wen Siqing so much? "Then why did you marry her in your previous life?" Ji Wang said, and sneered. "Knowing that your family adopted Xie Yubai as a son-in-law in advance, you still pretended to be innocent and came to snatch him. What's the difference with a mistress? What are you saying? As if he is not." My playful eyes swept Ji Wang up and down. He obviously reacted and touched his nose with his hand. He coughed lightly and said unhappily, "Can I be the same as her? Our secret love and open snatch the same thing. Before I confirmed that you and Xie Yubai had no chance, who could tell that I liked you? What about her?" She was afraid that others would not see that she and Xie Yubai had an ambiguous relationship. "I even confessed my feelings secretly. You haven't seen it yet." Ji Wang said the last sentence in a low voice. I really didn't hear it clearly, but when I asked again, he refused to say it. Ji Wang didn't stay long. He left after putting down the documents. I sent him to the door. But he suddenly stopped, leaned down, and approached me slightly. He said with a smile on his lips, "Friendly reminder. There are only 5 hours left until 8 o'clock in the evening." I shook my hand and closed the door. "Go." I rubbed my slightly cold arms, shook my head and smiled, and turned around. Just as I was about to enter the house, I looked up and found that Xie Yubai was sitting on the rattan chair on the terrace on the second floor, looking at me dimly. I don't know how long he looked at me. "Here, for you." I pulled open the rattan chair and sat down, and I put the documents that Ji Wang sent on the round table. Xie Yubai frowned, but didn't take the documents. He just took the coat next to him and handed it to me. "Put it on." I was stunned for a moment and waved my hand. "No, you read the documents first." After he finished reading and signing, I went back to the house directly. It only took a few minutes. "Put it on." Xie Yubai repeated it again. He looked like if I didn't wear it, there would be nothing to talk about. I had no choice but to put on his coat. "Are you really together?" Xie Yubai suddenly asked. I pursed my lips and avoided the question. I pushed the document to him. "Take a look, just sign it if there's no problem." Xie Yubai showed a gloomy look, flipped through the document and glanced at it. His brows unexpectedly frowned tighter and tighter. "What? The conditions are not suitable." I looked at him in confusion. I thought the conditions I offered were already very generous. The 15% shares under my name were all entrusted to Xie Yubai, and he would have 25% of the shares. except for my mother's 27%. He already had the highest individual dry shares among the company's shareholders. I still have some self-knowledge. Rather than overestimating my own abilities and taking over the company by myself, I might as well give it all to Xiaoyu Bai. Just help him to the position of general manager. My mom and I don't have to do anything. Just lie down and get paid. Isn't it nice? However, I didn't give him this share for nothing. I've entrusted my entire fortune to you. I want some protection. Isn't that too much? I have 3 conditions. First, the adoption relationship with my family must never be terminated. He must always be my brother, and his last name must always be Xie. Second, I don't care about the profit or loss of his company. My mom and I must get 50 million in dividends every year. Isn't my mom afraid that Xiaoyu Bai is not a family member and is afraid of being cheated? Then just don't make so much trouble, no matter if he cheats or not. No matter if he is calculating or not, as long as the fixed 50 million. If the profit is less, Xiaoyu Bai will pay us out of his own pocket. If the profit is more, he can keep it for himself. After all, we can't let others run the company for nothing. If you want to be a hands-off boss, you have to pay a price. Third, Xiaoyu Bai moves out of my house, in this life, unless it is a matter of life and death, funeral, natural disaster or man-made disaster. There is no need to see each other again. No need to see each other, Xiaoyu Bai said with a cold tone. Xiaoyu, why should I give you a bargain? What kind of words are these? I was so angry that I laughed. You only make money and never lose money. Okay, what do you mean by giving me a bargain? I don't believe you can still face me and my mother like before. It's better for everyone if we don't meet again. Okay. Xiaoyu Bai threw the document to the ground with anger burning in his eyes. I've never been good. Xiaoyu, if you want me to sign a contract, I can. I have only one request. You can't be with Ji Wang. His fists were clenched tightly, and the blue veins on the back of his hands showed Xiaoyu Bai's anger. But I was powerless, looking up into the distance, and putting my cold fingertips into my pockets. What does this have to do with Ji Wang? Xiaoyu Bai, you can't let go of the hatred of your previous life. What happened has happened, and we can't get over it. The voice stopped abruptly. I was stunned for a few seconds. And then took out my hand from my pocket. My fingers took out the object with sharp corners that I just touched. A yellow paper star. It should have accidentally fallen into Xiaoyu Bai's pocket when he broke the jar that night. The only surviving star. My eyes trembled, and I slowly unraveled it layer by layer. A white and slender hand suddenly pulled it away. Xiaoyu Bai's face was livid, and he tore it to pieces. My pupils shrank slightly, and I looked up at Xiaoyu Bai and said slowly, so, you knew what was in the star jar that Ji Wang gave me? Almost in an instant, the scene of the day I was reborn flashed through my mind like an electric shock. The lost and recovered white moonlight was right in front of me. The critical moment when you can say the words you have regretted for a lifetime. Xiaoyu Bai insisted on sweeping all the paper stars in my room first for some reason. At this moment, I suddenly seemed to have the answer. I stood up from the chair, shook my head, and took several steps back. So, Xiaoyu Bai's hostility towards Ji Wang, it may not be just because he married Wen Xiqing in his previous life. Yes, Ji Wang hated Wen Xiqing so much. Why did he agree to marry her? Could it be that in the previous life, I couldn't help but take a breath? Ji Wang fought with you and both suffered losses. Yes, for me, every time Xiaoyu Bai saw Ji Wang, he came back and tormented me. In fact, it wasn't because of Wen Xiqing. Yes. Xiaoyu Bai rushed forward and grabbed my arm. His eyes were red, and he gritted his teeth and said, every time he came to me, he negotiated with me and asked me to let you go, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to let you go even if I die. The strength in my arms suddenly loosened. Xiaoyu Bai took me into his arms, as if he had admitted defeat, and rested his forehead on my shoulder. I thought I didn't want to let you go because I hated you, but the moment you vomited blood in front of me, I was really scared. At that moment, I felt that as long as you could live, no hatred mattered. After I was reborn, I also thought that everything was over and we could start over. But Xiaoyu, even when I was with Xiqing, I was thinking about you all the time. I was afraid that you would really be with Ji Wang, afraid that you would accept him and fall in love with him. Xiaoyu, I might really love. Shut up, I slapped him hard. The words he didn't say were stopped at his lips. My palms trembled violently, and I shook my head and backed away. Xiaobai, you can't, I don't care what you want to say, you can't say it. He couldn't be in my last life. When he was in my life, his heart was full of Wen Xiqing. Now that he has Wen Xiqing in this life, he starts to think about me all the time. Xiaobai, in this life, I can only be your sister, nothing else. I don't know what Xiaobai said to Wen Xiqing that night. I only know that when she came to my house the next morning, her eyes were red. The two of them seemed to have a big quarrel in the house, and the sound was loud and crying. Even I could hear it vaguely in the piano room. The fingers tapped smoothly on the keys, and the sound of the piano covered up all the noise that had nothing to do with me. My heart gradually calmed down. But I didn't expect that Wen Xiqing would suddenly push the door in. She didn't seem to be doing well recently. The exquisite makeup couldn't cover up the fatigue. Her eyes were red. Probably because she had just cried. My fingers paused slightly, and I looked at her in confusion. Sister-in-law, is there something wrong? Wen Xiqing smiled reluctantly, and her eyes swept across my piano, and asked casually, "Oh, I heard that the winner of this piano competition has the opportunity to study in Berkeley for 3 years." I pursed my lips. Yes, you will win, right? Wen Xiqing lowered her eyes and looked at me. With a trace of tension in her eyes that could break at any moment, my fingers completely left the keys, and I looked up at her seriously and smiled. I didn't intend to beat around the bush. Sister-in-law, you can rest assured, whether we win or not, my mother and I will draw a clear line with Xiaobai. So, stop thinking about those useless things. It's disgusting. I felt that what I said should be quite gentle, but Wen Xiqing's eyes were red for no reason, and he smiled. What can I do then? I finally snatched him from you, but I found that his heart is full of your traces. My fingers shrank slightly, and I vaguely saw myself in my previous life. But Wen Xiqing is better than me. I have no choice, but she still has. Then, is it necessary to insist? Wen Xiqing smiled sadly. It is necessary. As long as you disappear in his world, I will be sure that I can go to the end with him. The words lingered on the lips and teeth. Finally, they were swallowed back. The worst thing a person should do in this life is to try to persuade and change other people's 3 views. Respect. I smiled at Wen Xiqing and said sincerely, "Blessings." On the day of my piano competition, Ji Wang came. Xiaobai also came. Both of them held flowers in their arms. I paused and stepped forward to take Ji Wang's bright red roses. Xiaobai looked down at the bright and hot sunflower in his arms and smiled bitterly. He turned around and threw the flower into the trash can. The slight sound made everyone in the backstage slightly stunned. Xiaobai smiled at me as if he didn't notice it at all. "Xiaoyu, can we chat?" I looked at him quietly for 3 seconds and nodded. Okay. Ji Wang raised his eyebrows and whispered in my ear, "You haven't given me an answer yet. Why do you talk to him first?" I made a light TSK sound and kicked him a little. "What are you competing with him for?" I saw Xiaobai less and less. And I might never see him again in the future. He has a long way to go. So why do you want to compete for this? Ji Wang obviously reacted, curled his lips, and whispered, "Then you must give me an answer after the game. Otherwise I will really sue you." Me, in the silent and deserted stairwell. Xiaobai had his back to me, fists clenched. I shrank my shoulders, feeling a little cold. "Xiaoyu, if I hadn't seen the competition flyer today, and hadn't seen the award that the winner would go abroad for further studies, when are you going to tell me that you're leaving? Will it be that one day when I return home, I suddenly find that you and Mom have disappeared, then I look everywhere, only to find that you've left me and left?" Xiaobai's voice was hoarse. It echoed softly in the empty stairwell. I lowered my eyes and pursed my lips. "I plan to notify you after I win the competition. It's a notification, not telling, because no matter whether I win the competition or not, and whether Xiaobai signs the commission agreement or not, my mom and I are going to leave. The new house has been bought. I've also planned a new life, and from beginning to end, Xiaobai is not in the plan. There are people who want the shares that he doesn't want. He's not the only one who can run a company." "Brother," I sighed, "sign the agreement, consider it my final compensation to you." After all, my mother was at fault in the previous life. Strictly speaking, Xie Yubai was also a victim. There is really no need to retaliate against him. Parting amicably is also worthy of the fate of being a family in this life. Xie Yubai's voice trembled. Are you really going to abandon me, brother? We are no longer on the same path. How can I talk about abandonment? What if I love you? What if I have broken up with Xiqing? Xie Yubai finally turned around. His eyes were already red. Pa, I slapped him loudly with an expressionless face. That's the answer. You say it once, I'll hit you once, until you don't say such crazy things anymore. Xie Yubai turned his face away, tears silently sliding down from the corners of his eyes. Even my breathing became trembling. Xie, what did I do wrong? I just repented a little late. Shouldn't I hate you, Xie family, for manipulating my fate? But in this life, I woke up and found the one I really love. Pa, the slap hit Xie Yubai's face. I had no expression. It's no use saying those things. You have only two choices now. Either continue to say these crazy things, and then guard the 10% of the shares, and retreat from the position of general manager to the position of shareholder. General manager, I will hire someone else before I go abroad, or sign the contract. Be your general manager steadily and make countless money. Choose one. When I came out of the stairwell, the wind in the corridor blew across my cheek. It brought a chill. I reached out and touched it, but it was wet. Did I cry, crying tears of joy, or surviving a disaster, relieved? I don't know. But it's not because of sadness. There was a man leaning against the wall not far away. He was dressed in a suit and had a handsome face, but he was tapping the wall with the back of his head anxiously. I don't know how long I waited. Ji Wang, I called him softly. Ji Wang straightened up suddenly and looked behind me subconsciously. After confirming that Xie Yubai didn't catch up, he breathed a sigh of relief. After talking about him, it's my turn. Right, I took out my phone and checked the time. I guess it's too late. I have to go on stage. After saying that, I smiled slyly. I took out a paper star from my pocket and stuffed it into his hand. I'll watch it when I'm on stage. The spotlight hit my face, and I lifted my skirt and sat down. My fingers fell on the piano keys, but I didn't play them immediately. I tilted my head to scan the audience below. Ji Wang was sitting in the first row, looking down and carefully unwrapping the paper star. That was the star that I finally found in the crack of the bed after searching through boxes and cabinets. Inside was Ji Wang's confession to me. If you and Xie Yubai don't work out, come back and look at me. I've been waiting for you for many years. And the one in Ji Wang's hand now, there was an extra line of words below. It wasn't a response, just a string of addresses. The address of the new house I bought in the United States. Dong. My fingers fell on the piano keys, and I smiled and pressed the first note. Later on, I married Ji Wang and returned to China to settle down. Ding dong. If you don't eat for one day, I will let someone torture your mother for one more day. Ji Wang, who was coaxing his daughter, curled his lips and looked awkward. Wife, your 50 million alimony has arrived. You're so jealous. I poked his forehead with my finger. This is called welfare dividends, not alimony. I slid my finger up and opened the text message. The amount of the transfer far exceeded 50 million. Under the transfer record, as always, there was a note attached. Xie, please meet me, please. Without changing my expression, I deleted the text message. I turned around and clapped my hands at my daughter. Come, baby, mommy hugs you. My body fell into a warm embrace. Ji Wang hugged me tightly and kissed me on the lips. Please move aside, my child. I will hold my wife first. If you don't let me hold you, I will sue you for domestic violence. TSK, I smiled. Then call the police.